Today it's all about apple season and we're going to make apple coffee cake. It's gonna be your favorite fall breakfast. You're not gonna wanna miss it. Hey everyone, it's Dorothy with crazyforcrust.com and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm taking my mom's best coffee cake and I am adding apples to make it perfect for fall. It's a soft crumb cake with a crumble topping that is brown sugar streusel that's fantastic. And I'm adding some nice cooked Granny Smith apples in there. This is gonna be your favorite, I promise. For more delicious desserts and easy recipes, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Now let's get in the kitchen. This cake has three parts. It has the apples, the actual cake, and the topping. So we're gonna start off today by making the apples. I'm using 2 medium Granny Smith apples and you need to peel and core and slice them. So I'm using my apple peeler. I will link it down below. I love this thing. I know I hate having tons of kitchen gadgets, but this one is worth every cent. It's not that expensive on Amazon. It's worth it. It's so much easier. If you're gonna make even one apple recipe a year, it's totally worth having one of these. It peels it, it cores it, and it slices it all for you. And then I just kind of dice it into small chunks, so it's just small little bites of apple in every bite. Now you're going to add 1 tablespoon of butter to a medium saucepan, melt that, add your apples along with 2 tablespoons of sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Stir that to combine over medium-low heat. Cook it for just about a minute, cover it. You're gonna cook it covered, stirring a couple times for about 3 to 4 minutes until the apples have just slightly softened. You don't want them mushy or opaque. You still want them to have that like whitish apple color, but you just wanna start them softening. That way they won't be too crunchy in your coffee cake. Remove the cooked apples from the heat. You can leave them in the pan, just remove them from the heat and let them sit on the stove to cool while we're making the cake and the topping. All right, next up, we're going to make the cake batter for this. It's super simple, just a regular, straightforward recipe. First thing we're going to do is whisk together our dry ingredients. So add 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour to a small bowl, and then add 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Whisk that together and then set it aside. The cake is super simple. You're going to start with 1/4 cup of unsalted butter, and you're going to melt that. Now today I'm using Challenge butter. This is the only butter that I use when I'm baking. I grew up eating Challenge butter. It's the only butter my parents buy. I love using their unsalted for this recipe, but you can substitute salted, just omit any salt. Once it's melted, you're going to add 3/4 cup of granulated sugar and 1 large egg. Stir that together. We don't need a mixer for this. You can just stir that together. Then add in 1/2 cup of milk. You can use regular milk, non-fat milk. You can use non-dairy milk also. Then once you stirred in that milk into the cake batter, go ahead and add the dry ingredients you whisked together earlier and stir it together until no lumps remain. Set that aside. Now we're gonna make the topping, which is a brown sugar crumble. Oh, it's to die for. You're gonna start with 1/4 cup of unsalted butter. Again, you're going to melt it for about 30 seconds to a minute in the microwave. Then add 1 cup of packed brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I like to stir this with a fork so it stays nice and fluffy. And now it's time to layer our cake into the pan. So I'm using a 9-inch round cake pan here. You could use a 9-inch square pan. You can use a 10-inch pie plate or a 9 or a 10-inch cake pan. Go ahead and spray that with nonstick cooking spray, or you could grease and flour it, and then add your cake batter. On top of your cake batter, you're going to add your apples. Do me a favor, try and drain them. Try and get theirs. You're gonna have some of that apple cooking liquid still in the bottom of the pan. Try not to add very much of that into the cake. Try and just use the apples, not that liquid. And then you're gonna sprinkle the crumble all over the top and try and make both the apples and the crumble even so you get a little bit in every bite. Now we're gonna bake that at 350. I like to place the cake pan onto a baking sheet just in case it rises too much. Depending on the size of your pan, I don't want it to bubble over and make a mess of your oven. So just in case, bake it on a cookie sheet. It's gonna take 40 to 50 minutes. The toothpick will come out clean and that crumble will be nice and crunchy looking on top. You're gonna definitely wanna let this cool. If you try and cut it too soon, it's just gonna like flop all over the place. So let it cool at least 15 or 20 minutes before serving. I like to dust it with powdered sugar just to make it nice and pretty. All right, quick tip. Did you know that coffee cake doesn't actually have coffee in it? I think that's one of the most popular comments that I get on any coffee cake post is, where's the coffee? Coffee cake doesn't have coffee in it. It is cake that is meant to be eaten in the morning for breakfast or brunch with coffee. And once it's baked, it is absolutely delicious. It smells amazing. You can smell that brown sugar crumble and the apples. And all that cinnamon. This is the absolute perfect recipe all fall long when you have those apples from apple picking season, or for maybe a Thanksgiving breakfast or even a Christmas morning breakfast. This is a fantastic apple recipe. Leave me a comment and let me know your favorite apple recipes to make, and keep watching for even more breakfast recipes.